All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into the world of Greek philosophy.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about the big three, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle.
The OGs.
Yeah, the ultimate philosophical dream team. And you've probably heard their names before, but trust me, we're going way beyond the textbook basics here.
Definitely.
This deep dive is all about understanding why these guys still matter today. Like, what their ideas can teach us about living a good life even thousands of years later. We've got some really fascinating source material to work with.
Oh, yeah. What kind of stuff?
Well, it's actually structured kind of like a podcast episode itself, which I thought was interesting. But our mission, and I think you'll agree, is to really pull out those golden nuggets, the insights that we can actually use.
Absolutely. I'm all about that practical philosophy.
Totally. So
Yeah.
where do we even begin with these guys? I mean, they're like the founding fathers of Western thought.
Well, it's fascinating how they actually form, a kind of chain of intellectual inheritance. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, each one building on the ideas of the one before. It's like this really dynamic conversation that stretches across centuries.
I love that, like a philosophical chain
Yeah,
reaction.
exactly.
And it all starts with Socrates.
It's right. It does. He's the spark that ignites it all.
And our sources paint this incredible picture of him, a stonemason turned philosophical powerhouse. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, talk about a career change.
It's a great reminder that, you don't need a fancy degree to be a deep thinker.
Absolutely. Socrates really embodies the idea that philosophy is for everyone.
Mm.
He believed that wisdom wasn't found in some, dusty scroll, but within ourselves. He just needed to kind of help people draw it out.
So was that where his famous Socratic method comes in?
Yeah.
Because I always picture him like bombarding people with questions instead of lecturing. It's like that friend who keeps asking why until you finally figure out what you truly believe.
Exactly. And all that questioning, it wasn't just about, anointing people. It was about challenging assumptions, like getting to the core of things.
Mhm.
For Socrates, virtue wasn't just about good deeds. He actually believed that virtue is knowledge.
Hmm.
So in other words, if you truly understand what's good, you'll naturally act accordingly.
Oh, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But it also raises a ton of questions for me. I mean, we all know what we should do, but sometimes we still make bad choices.
Right.
It makes you wonder if knowing really does automatically lead to doing.
Yeah, it makes you question the whole nature of, willpower, temptation, even our unconscious biases. Socrates might argue that those who make bad choices haven't fully grasped the true meaning of good.
It's pretty deep.
It's a provocative idea, and one that, continues to fuel philosophical debate even today.
For sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that make you think, let's talk about Socrates' ending.
Oh.
The guy was literally sentenced to death for his ideas, forced to drink hemlock after being accused of corrupting the youth. I mean, talk about commitment to intellectual freedom.
Yeah, it's a powerful and, tragic reminder that challenging the status quo often comes at a price. Socrates' death elevates him to, like, a symbol of free speech and the pursuit of truth, even in the face of danger.
That's a heavy legacy for sure.
Yeah.
But the story of Greek philosophy doesn't end there, right? Enter Plato, Socrates' most famous student.
Oh, Plato, yeah.
And he definitely seems to take those lessons about truth and knowledge to heart.
Oh, absolutely. Plato was deeply influenced by Socrates, but he also, he expanded on those ideas. He created his own system of thought. And at the core of that system is the theory of forms.
Okay, the theory of forms. Now, this is where things start to get a little mind-bending, right?
Yeah, it can be a bit of a head scratcher.
I mean, our sources do try to break it down, but it's still pretty abstract.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, Plato basically believed that everything we experience in the physical world is just a shadow of a perfect, unchanging form
Right.
that exists in this separate realm.
Exactly. It's like, if you see a beautiful sunset or a perfectly formed flower, these are just imperfect reflections of the true forms of beauty and perfection.
So it's like there's this ultimate ideal behind everything we see.
Right. Like a blueprint.
No wonder Plato thought philosophers should be in charge. Didn't he literally write a book about it?
He did. It's called The Republic.
And he lays out his whole vision for this ideal society ruled by, well, philosopher kings.
Yeah, it's a compelling idea.
Now, that's a political system I'd be curious to see in action.
It raises some tricky questions, though, doesn't it? Like, does being a brilliant thinker automatically make you a good leader?
Right.
Or could philosophers actually handle the practicalities of ruling? Or would they be too stuck in the world of ideas?
Yeah, maybe a philosopher president wouldn't be such a great idea after all. They might spend all their time pondering those forms and forget to, like, take out the trash.
Yeah, or balance the budget.
Exactly. But before we get too sidetracked, let's introduce the last member of our Greek philosophy dream team, Aristotle, a student of, you guessed it, Plato.
Of course, the lineage continues.
So how does Aristotle fit into all of this?
Well, he's the one who takes this philosophical inheritance in a completely new direction. While Socrates focused on all that questioning and Plato on those abstract forms, Aristotle was all about the real, observable world.
So he's like the science guy of the group.
Exactly. Aristotle was a keen observer of nature, and he believed that true knowledge came from studying the world around us, not from some otherworldly realm of forms. He did extensive research on plants, animals, you name it. Now, some of his scientific theories were ultimately proven wrong.
Well, it makes him seem a lot more human, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even geniuses can get things wrong.
Absolutely. It shows that science is a process of, constant refinement and discovery. But what's important is that Aristotle really laid the groundwork for the scientific method. That systematic approach of observation, hypothesis, and experimentation that's still the foundation of science today.
So we've got Socrates the questioner, Plato the idealist, and Aristotle the scientist. But where does happiness fit into all of this?
That's the big question, isn't it?
I mean, were these guys just pondering abstract concepts all day long? Or did they care about living a good life?
Well, they were absolutely concerned with living a good life. And for Aristotle, the good life was synonymous with eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia.
Now, this isn't just about, fleeting pleasure. It's about living a life of virtue, purpose, and fulfillment. It's about reaching your full potential as a human being.
So it's kind of like all those self-help books that tell you to find your passion and live your best life.
You could say that. But Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia goes much deeper. He believed that true happiness came from living in accordance with reason and virtue, from contributing to society and from continually seeking knowledge and self-improvement. In a world that's, obsessed with quick fixes and instant gratification, Aristotle's ideas offer a really powerful counterpoint. They remind us that true fulfillment comes from a life of purpose and meaning, not from chasing fleeting pleasures.
Yeah, it's like he's saying true happiness is a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
But hold on, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. We've met the giants of Greek philosophy, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, and we've started to unravel their ideas about knowledge, virtue, and the good life, but we're just getting started.
Oh, there's more.
Oh yeah, there's so much more to explore.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the minds of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. We've already met these philosophical giants, but now it's time to kind of, explore how their ideas connect, clash, and continue to echo through the centuries.
It's like watching how, an idea evolves, like watching it transform and branch out as it passes from one thinker to the next.
Right. And with these three, the student-teacher relationships are key.
Definitely.
We've got that direct line from Socrates to Plato to Aristotle. I mean, it makes you wonder what those classroom debates must have been like.
Oh, I know, right? Can you imagine?
But it wasn't just blind acceptance, though, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
Each philosopher really seemed to push back against their mentor in some really interesting ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a testament to the true spirit of philosophy, that constant questioning, even of the ideas you hold dear. Like take Plato, for example. He clearly admired Socrates and his emphasis on self-examination, but he took that concept and built this whole system of thought around it, complete with, the theory of forms.
And then Aristotle comes along and he's like, hold on, let's get back to reality.
Yeah.
It's almost like a philosophical rebellion against his own teacher.
It is. It is. And yet, even in his rejection of Plato's forms, Aristotle is still engaging with those ideas, refining them, pushing the conversation forward. He's essentially saying reason and logic are important, but let's not forget about the power of observing the world around us. It's a brilliant synthesis of both approaches, really.
So it's not just about, who taught whom, but it's about this ongoing dialogue between different perspectives.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, beyond those student-teacher relationships, what were some of the common threads that, really united these three philosophical heavyweights?
Well, one theme that I see running through, all of their work is this emphasis on virtue.
Okay.
For Socrates, virtue is knowledge, right?
Right.
For Plato, it's about aligning yourself with those perfect forms. And for Aristotle, it's about finding balance, that golden mean in all aspects of life.
So even though they define it differently, they all agree that being a good person is crucial to living a good life.
Absolutely. It's not just about intellectual pursuits, it's about character in action.
Right.
And this emphasis on virtue ties directly into, their ideas about happiness.
Okay, how so?
Well, remember how Socrates believed that the unexamined life wasn't worth living?
Yeah.
That's all about aligning your actions with your values.
Hmm.
Plato, on the other hand, he believed that true happiness came from contemplating those perfect forms,
Yeah.
like getting closer to that ultimate truth.
And Aristotle, with his focus on eudaimonia, saw happiness as this ongoing process of striving for excellence,
Right.
fulfilling your potential as a human being.
Exactly. It wasn't just about fleeting pleasure for Aristotle. It was about living a life of purpose and meaning, a life that, aligned with your true nature. It's a concept that still resonates so deeply today, especially when you consider how much of our modern world seems so focused on instant gratification and superficial happiness.
Right. It's like they're all saying, hey, if you want true happiness, it's not going to come from chasing external rewards. It's about cultivating your inner self, living virtuously, and finding meaning in something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Pretty profound stuff.
Yeah.
Especially for guys who lived thousands of years ago.
It is. And it's a testament to how timeless these questions really are.
Yeah.
What is the good life? What does it mean to be happy? I mean, these are questions that have resonated throughout history, and they're just as relevant to us today as they were to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle.
For sure. Okay, so we've touched on those common threads, but let's not forget about those philosophical clashes.
Oh yeah, there are definitely some disagreements along the way.
Our sources mention that Aristotle wasn't totally on board with Plato's idea of balance being the key to happiness. I mean, is balance always a good thing?
That's a great question.
What if you're truly passionate about something? Shouldn't you go all in?
That's a great point, and it highlights a crucial point. Even these brilliant minds didn't always agree.
Right.
Aristotle, with his focus on observation, might have argued that balance is, a great starting point. But it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Sometimes a little imbalance, a little excess can be the catalyst for amazing things.
So you're saying a little bit of chaos can actually be a good thing?
Think about it. Artists, inventors, revolutionaries, they often push boundaries, break conventions. They operate outside the norms. If they were always striving for perfect balance, they might never achieve those breakthroughs.
That's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So even when it comes to something as seemingly positive as balance, we need to think critically, consider context, and maybe even embrace a little bit of healthy imbalance now and then.
Exactly. And that's a beauty of philosophy. It's not about finding easy answers. Right. It's about engaging in thoughtful debate, challenging assumptions, and constantly refining our understanding of the world.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
Well said. And speaking of journeys, we're about to embark on the final leg of our deep dive into the world of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. But before we do, I want to pause for a moment and ask you, the listener.
Yeah.
What's resonating with you the most so far? What insights are you finding, particularly thought-provoking or relevant to your own life?
Yeah, take a moment to consider that.
We'll be right back to wrap up this philosophical adventure. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the world of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. I hope you've had a chance to, reflect a bit on what's really stood out to you from our exploration. It's amazing how ideas from thousands of years ago can still feel so relevant today.
It really is. It speaks to the enduring power of these questions, right? About how to live a good life, how to govern ourselves, how to even understand reality itself. These are questions that humans have grappled with for centuries, and the insights from these thinkers still offer, valuable perspectives.
Totally. So before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap, focusing on those essential takeaways for each philosopher.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the kind of wisdom we can actually apply to our lives today.
Right.
So starting with Socrates, what do you think is his most enduring legacy?
For me, it's that emphasis on self-examination. Socrates' famous quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living," It's such a powerful reminder that we shouldn't just go through the motions, you know?
Yeah.
We need to actively question our beliefs, our values, our choices.
Right.
It's through that process of introspection that we truly grow as individuals.
Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in the daily grind and just kind of accept things as they are.
Right.
But Socrates is really challenging us to dig deeper,
Yeah.
to ask those uncomfortable questions, even if it means challenging the status quo.
Exactly. He reminds us that intellectual complacency can be just as dangerous as any other form of stagnation.
Totally. Okay, so we've got self-reflection from Socrates. What about Plato? What's his most valuable contribution?
I think it's that challenge to look beyond the surface,
Yeah.
to seek deeper meaning and understanding.
Okay.
Whether or not you agree with his specific theory of forms, the idea that there's more to reality than meets the eye, I think that's a powerful one.
Hmm.
In a world that's, so often obsessed with the material and the superficial, Plato encourages us to search for those deeper truths.
Right. It's like he's saying there's this whole other dimension of reality that we often miss if we're not, if we're not paying attention.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what insights we might be overlooking in our own lives if we're not taking the time to really contemplate the world around us.
Absolutely. He reminds us that true knowledge, it often requires effort, that it's not always immediately apparent.
Right. All right. And finally, we have Aristotle, the philosopher who, brought us back down to earth. What's his most lasting contribution?
For me, it's his focus on eudaimonia,
Hmm.
that idea of living a virtuous and fulfilling life.
Right.
In our modern world where happiness is so often equated with pleasure or material success, Aristotle reminds us that true fulfillment comes from living in accordance with reason and virtue, from pursuing knowledge and excellence, from contributing to something larger than ourselves.
It's like he's providing a roadmap for living a meaningful life, one that's focused on, personal growth and contributing to the common good.
Yeah, exactly. He offers a powerful antidote to the shallowness and instant gratification that often, kind of permeates our modern culture.
So we've got self-reflection from Socrates, seeking deeper meaning from Plato, and living virtuously from Aristotle. Those are some pretty solid life lessons, wouldn't you say?
They are indeed. And, as we conclude this deep dive, I'm left with a question. It kind of builds on everything we've discussed. If Socrates were alive today, walking among us, what aspects of our modern world do you think he would challenge us to examine?
Hmm. That is a great question.
What questions would he be asking?
Would he be baffled by social media?
Yeah.
Would he be holding, online dialogues about AI and its ethical implications?
Mm.
Would he be encouraging us to log off and reconnect with the natural world? I think he'd have a lot to say about our modern obsession with technology and its impact on our lives.
Oh, absolutely. And that's precisely why, engaging with these philosophical ideas is so important.
Yeah.
They provide us with the tools to think critically about the world around us, to question assumptions, to grapple with these complex issues, and to make informed choices about how we want to live our lives.
Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle may be long gone,
Yeah.
but their legacy of inquiry lives on. They're urging us to never stop questioning, never stop learning, and never stop striving for wisdom.
Well said. So keep those minds sharp, those hearts open, and as Socrates would say, never stop examining those lives you're living.
That is a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Greek philosophy. Until next time, happy philosophizing.